Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It is me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, and I am joined here again this Thursday. Happy Pride Month. Paul Pratt, I don't know where that guy's at. We have the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented Pollo Del Mar. Pollo, thank you so much for taking some more time to talk to us here on the Daily.
Hey, I love it. Any opportunity to talk about wrestling. So I'm all for it.
Good. Yeah. Well, we're about it here. And what is the look you're going for today here, Pollo?
This is like Reba McEntire's whorish sister, maybe. I don't know. I had, this is Pride Month for someone such as myself is like when you pay the bills. Like,
right.
It legitimately, it's like the time where you just don't say no and collect the money because you don't know when it's going to come again.
Yeah, whatever. Good for you. You look great. You don't need to explain anything to me. You don't need to explain why because you're going to go off and make all these monies today doing Pollo Del Mar. But no, we are fortunate to have you here right now, and we are fortunate to have everybody who's tuned in here real quickly. Welcome to the show, everyone. Jump in the comment section, whatever comment section you may be in, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. We have the Mecca thread over here where when you leave a comment, we can see it. We can pull it up over on the screen, make you a part of the show, right? And before we get to anything else here, before I talk about the rest of the show, I want to start off by getting out of the way the condolences that we have for the fans, friends, and family of Super Genie, Melissa Coates. She passed away, unfortunately, yesterday at the very young age of 50 years old, trained at Killer Kowalski School of Massachusetts, also by Rick Bassman at Rick Bassman's UPW Academy. During her career, she wrestled in OVW Deep South. She appeared at the 2005 WWE Backlash pay-per-view where she attempted to break out of Chris Masters' Master Lock Challenge. It was in 2014 where Coates began managing Sabu. I think most people would know her as that, as Super Genie. Yeah. She appeared with him in Impact and other promotions, and before her career, she did GSN's Extreme Dodgeball, and unfortunately, in late 2020, she was forced to undergo an amputation of her leg. Man, yeah, what's your reaction to this one, Pollo?
I mean, I was really saddened already to hear the announcement that Genie was in such a, like, in a bad way health-wise, as of last fall, because I know that they had done a GoFundMe for her and in light of the amputation situation. And it just seems like she must never have made that full recovery. It's really sad. It's always sad when somebody so young passes away to begin with, but the kind of whatever was happening here is just, it makes it extra sad.
Yeah, and especially when it's somebody that's just well liked and was just really friendly. I heard from a lot of people yesterday about her passing, and it was just very obvious to me how much she had really kind of made a good impression on the people she was around, when she was with us. So sending our best to Melissa. Anything else you want to say about that, Pollo?
I was also shocked to learn that she was only 50 because, to be frank, like, she did not, I think that it's no slight to her really, but I think that she came from a generation of wrestlers where I think that most of them did not probably expect to even live to be 50. And there were a lot of them were living that kind of rock and roll lifestyle that just threw caution to the wind, and the future was like not promised, right? So I thought she was a bit older.
No, 50 years young, and Super Genie, Melissa Coates. Once again, just want to send our best out to everyone who's grieving today and related and associated to that. Okay, all right. Well, with that out of the way, we are going to try to get back on track to our news show here today. Our program. We have a big show. Of course, Pollo Del Mar is in the house. We're going to talk the news. After that, we're going to hear, if you're listening in audio form, my conversation with Weston Blake, the former forgotten son, Wesley Blake. And if you want to see that in video form, we're going to drop it over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can jump in the conversation during the premiere. And at the end of the show for everybody, we're going to go into the mailbag. We're going to look at the women's Money in the Bank picture. But before we start to any of the news, first a couple comments here. Asher Rothberg, Pollo very Rita Hayworth today. I thought that was better than whatever you said about Reba.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Like an iconic and classic beauty, I'll take it.
Yeah, wonderful. Jim D just saying hiya, and Joseph here, another one for you. Hello, Nick, and Pollo Del Mar, all caps, looking very stunning. All the compliments.
Thank you.
Awesome. And also here, Naftali here, chiming in from Puerto Rico. Thank you, Naftali, for joining us.
We love the representation in all of our different areas around the world.
Yes, 100%. All right, with that, let's get to it. News you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. We are going to start with the top news here of the last 24 hours, and that is that WWE legend. He's a legend now. That's how we list him. John Cena.
I saw that and I cracked up, by the way.
Right? Is it a little early to be calling John Cena, or is he a living legend, right?
I mean, I think that when I read it, it made me crack up, but at the same time, like, I think it's earned, right? You know, like the man is like poised to break Ric Flair's world championship, you know, at any point in time. He's definitely a legend.
Yes, a legend. It's just weird to read. WWE legend, John Cena. I guess you're right. Earned title. Well, he appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon last night, confirmed his imminent return to WWE. When asked by Fallon to address the rumors, he said, "The rumors are true. I will definitely be back to the WWE. I just don't know when." So that doesn't sound as imminent to me. What do you think about it? What's going on here with John and coming back to WWE?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that they are probably also looking to keep that a surprise. You know what I mean? Like, I would imagine that as they're returning to touring and with him, that's the tease, right? Like, so that because we've already established that they're not selling out the venues as quickly as they might have thought, the idea that what if John Cena is popping onto my show? What if my show is the one that brings John Cena back? You know, in my town, I could see it live. But, you know, I think that it's certainly something that I think it's hilarious that they asked him this and he gave such a vague answer, because we all knew that it was imminent. They're like, John Cena is a corporate person. He's never presumably going to walk entirely away from WWE. It's just a matter of when he finds time to return.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really good. I keep thinking July 16th. This reminds me of like when Edge was coming back and everybody kind of knew it, and he was kind of saying, no, I don't know yet. You know, lying, right? Wrestlers lie. They're great liars. Wrestlers, fantastic liars.
Kayfabe.
Kayfabe, whatever you want to call it. They're liars, right? But anyway, John Cena, you know, I think July 16th, that first SmackDown back, you know, I think it would just be so good for them. I think you can hold off Becky till Raw. You know, you don't need to do everything at once. But I kind of feel like Cena on the 16th, that feels, I don't know, a little safe to me. Maybe I'm being a little overambitious about that.
Well, I mean, it's very plausible. They're returning to the road, and John Cena is a major attraction. I can't. The thing about it is, I can't foresee Cena doing anything remotely near a regular touring schedule. You know what I mean? Because he's just extremely big. It's not even a situation like I saw that you and Brian were talking about, you know, Brock Lesnar and sort of just not wanting to come back. Sure. The scenarios are entirely different. Lesnar is like doing nothing and enjoying it. And Cena is filming, you know, commercials with purple cows, you know, every day, probably like making that money. Make that money, John Cena. So, I mean, I'm literally sitting here looking like this because I'm trying to make the money. I wish that thank you very much. What was that from? I remember you said it fell from the rafters at what show?
These were the MSG Okada bucks right there. Boom.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Is that or the Cow Palace? I'll have to go back and look. Either one is cool. But anyway, no, and also when you're talking about Cena coming back, like he mentions in the Fallon interview the insurance companies, right? He's like, once you start doing these gigs, and you have so many important gigs lined up, boom, 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 boom. The insurance companies are like, you can't take risks because there's so many projects that you're involved with now at a high level. I would just love to see, you know, him and Roman and like what it looks like to put together a John Cena match now. I mean, the guy, you know, he knows how to work between the moves, you know, it's going to say it, but, you know, limited, I would say safely limited.
It's a scenario where, because it's one thing to put your body at risk when WWE owns you, but he has moved out of that realm. And that's why he is presumably like a legend. You know, only legends get to come and go like he does. And he is now doing other projects. And when you are a movie actor, like, you are under lots and lots of obligations. If a film is being built around you and something happens and it throws off the production, you're talking millions of dollars, lost.
Yeah, and Rocky Baya here saying is Cena still in Canada. But on that note, they're going to be opening the border soon. You could head back to the States because Canada is actually going to be doing a vaccine passport. I don't know if you know that or not.
I did not know that, but I think that presumably is where a lot of the places in the world are going to move towards. Like, you know, if you're planning to come in, like we have regulations for our own people. If you're planning to come in, you have to abide by those regulations.
Yeah, and I feel John Cena will qualify for that. So yeah, I don't think they can't. That's the thing. It's like everything has happened so quick. Like the last 4 weeks have felt like a week, 1 week, right? You know, it's just all happened so quick. How all of a sudden I can walk out my front door without a mask on and walk my dog and go get a beer all at the same time.
And I still don't. Like, you know, I actually was. So I'm in Las Vegas right now, and I was driving down here, and I drove through all these little places, and I was shocked that people were still wearing, many people were still wearing masks, myself included. And there were a couple times actually when I stopped to get gas and I just didn't bother because I'm fully vaccinated and have been for months. And I felt like a total heel going into places without one. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a confrontation.
Whatever. I don't mask shame. Wear the mask. That's fine. They told me I don't need it. I trust them. So whatever. I don't care. I'm free. I'm free facing these days. That's what I'm going to call it. Free facing. You know what I mean? All right. At space, or by the way, Spaceman 584 saying we're wild in here. I don't know. I don't feel like we're wilding any more than usual today.
No, well, I think, you know, I look different.
Nah. Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Joseph, the lip liner.
Joseph Vendetti here, off the topic, by the way. Nick, I loved your Bill Apter interview. Thank you. I just wanted to point that out and give a little love to that interview. I don't know if you saw it, Polio, but
I was driving yesterday, Nick. Come on now. I didn't get to see it.
Bill and I are dressed the same. He realized.
I knew that was coming. I knew in your blue floral shirt, I knew that was forthcoming.
Yeah, I don't. The news was good. The talk was good, but the shirts, that's what's important. All right, next news item here.
Well, I'm disgusted with you. You could have totally worn the same outfit. I sent it to you.
I don't.
The low cut plunging cleavage too. I was like, come on, get it together.
I'm wondering if I have leopard print. I don't know. I might. I have a lot of different things. All right. Next time we'll coordinate. All right. New news item. We've gone through one. We've talked John Cena. All right. Let's talk another news item. Top WWE prospect Parker Boudreaux could be nearing his WWE NXT debut. The former college football player took to Twitter on Wednesday to share a pointing photo of Triple H with the caption, "It's time to play the game." And with that, I'm going to add this to the stream. There's the photo right there of these two, Polio. Now, I saw this photo, which first of all would seem to imply Parker is coming back, right? Soon?
Right.
Yeah, or going to debut. But that's not really what I saw. Like, when I saw this photo, and I had to bring it and have it ready, like, this looks like when you go to prom and you have to get a photo with, like, your date's dad, right? Like, just before you jump, like, you know, the group limo or whatever. That's what I saw when I saw this photo. This did not come across to me like a signing of a big fighter. I don't know. What any thoughts on the debut photo here, the pointing photo?
It looks like a fan meet and greet photo. Mm-hmm. It looks like a fan meet and greet photo. He's like, oh my god, I get to be with Triple H.
He's a baby.
I met Triple H, you guys.
Yeah, he's a baby. But he's got, like, the thing I noticed, because I don't know that you could really see it in the stream here. Dude, he's got a lot of, like, hand tattoos. Like, little
of course
tattoos.
I saw. That's the only thing I was staring at the whole time. It's like an entire hand tattoo.
When did he get the time? Because he's only, like, what, 21, 22, something like that? I think he's 22.
Well, I'm guessing that, you know, once he signed with WWE, he's like, let's do this. I'm like, clearly, like, I don't, you know, I'm not going to have a traditional, you know, whatever. Because I love hand tattoos and neck tattoos, but I would never get one because what if I have to have a corporate job? You know, and as a gay person, I'm like, what if I have to become a flight attendant?
I wonder if, like, I don't know. I like to do a lot of, like, fanfic when it comes to the behind the scenes of pro wrestling. Like, with Brock not coming back, do you think at any point he was just like, what, you guys went and got a new one? You got a new younger me. That's fine. You don't need me anymore, Vince. You know?
Well, let's hope that Parker Boudreaux lives up to that hype because they've been saying that about him since legitimately the moment he was introduced.
Yeah, and Heyman's the one who got that all rolling.
Yes.
He was the one who tweeted, you better watch out. This is like the next big thing or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought it was funny. There's another Brock Lesnar. All right, here's my favorite story of the day. So former WWE superstar Ruby Riott, Dory Page, FKA Heidi Lovelace, apparently revealed her new ring name. She's changed her name to Ruby Soho on Instagram. Her new handle is Real Ruby Soho, and she appeared on the Wrestling Perspective podcast earlier this month, which is co-hosted by Rancid guitarist and vocalist Lars Friedrichsen. Now, she noted then that she still wants to be addressed as Ruby, but has no plans on bringing back the Heidi Lovelace name. It was also revealed that Ruby Soho was a possibility for her new name because it was inspired from the 95 punk song of the same name by Rancid. And Friedrichsen then offered to give Ruby the rights to use the Ruby Rojo single as her entrance, and she says, here's the back and forth. So she says, I'd like to keep my name Ruby if it's possible. I feel like it fits me. Ruby came from Ruby Soho, and so I hold that very dear to my heart. Friedrichsen then said, okay, well, that's going to be one of that was going to be one of my suggestions. Why not just do Ruby Soho? I got a couple guys I know who can clear the music for you. She says, stop, you can't say that to me. And he says, well, I swear to God, I get on a group text right now and get you cleared in about 10 minutes. And that's how it happens. Isn't that amazing?
Well, I mean, he wrote it. It's like it's to some degree, it's like Jericho being like, no, we're using Judas as my entrance music. There's nobody who has to, it's my intellectual property. But it's great that, part of me says that, that she went on this show to begin with to slide that in, slip that in there and see what comes of it. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad that she gets to keep a name that in part people associate with her, just the Ruby, right? That part of it.
Dude, this is so good, Polio. I'm so excited because, as a child of the 90s, Ruby Soho has a place in my heart. It is one of my favorite songs. And, to have somebody that I really like, even, personally really like Ruby or Heidi Ruby, and she now has this badass song to come out to. She's the physical encapsulation of Ruby Soho now, approved by Rancid. That's incredible. I've never heard of anything. I don't know that there's anything I can compare this to in pro wrestling. It's very unique. It's a very unique, awesome, cool thing. Love it.
Well, I'm sure that that Rancid's also really excited about it too, because there's presumably there's going to be potential additional exposure for them and tie-ins to wrestling. And he's got her on his podcast. So it's clear he's a pro wrestling fan.
Yes.
So it's very synergistic that everybody gets to benefit from this. And probably to some degree, both of them are living some kind of a dream.
This seems like custom tailored for Tony Khan, right? The guy he loves to pair a popular song, a 90s popular song, aka the Pixies, Tarzan Boy. I think, when was Tarzan?
Tarzan Boy's in the mid 80s.
Mid 80s. I was going to say earlier than that, than the 90s, but
much earlier.
We'll call it classic rock at this point, right?
Well, fun fact, Baltimore released that single and it became a moderate hit, and then it was included in a television commercial in the 90s, which made it return to popularity and once again become a charting single.
All right, rock and roll. Well, I see Ruby Soho coming out to Ruby Soho on AEW TV as a layup. I don't think Vince, I feel like this is too much for Vince, right? The wrestler has control. There's a band that has control. I don't know that this gimmick would work as well for her in WWE as it would an AEW or whoever else is smart enough to jump on this bandwagon, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think we're starting to see some elements of that. Frankie Monet had a pop song that's not, and we do see a lot of that in WWE. I just think that they just want to think of all these things.
There's a huge difference in the level of you hear Ruby Soho and I want to flip a table, have a beer, and have a party. That song is it evokes something into me. It is not like a random pop song written for another wrestler or something like that. It a very specific, and I don't know, maybe doesn't hit you the same way, Polio. I'm gathering it maybe doesn't, but this is a very.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that it was a key thing for you too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Love it.
So, but I was like stuck on the idea of you like being like prostitution whores, like the housewives, and flipping the table. Go on, Teresa Giudice. But it's like that's what I had in my mind. But I think that we do see elements of these kind of like fun tie-ins, and how great would it be if they like decide to like really, really push her and Rancid comes and plays her to the ring, or
yes.
Those kind of things are great opportunities.
Yes, and that is an amazing thing that will very likely happen. And I'm going to say probably on AEW TV. If I had to guess. I
would say that that it seems tailor-made for AEW over any other promotion.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Well, Sean Patrick O'Brien, friend of the show, that's amazing. Happy for Ruby. Kristen Jones, such a great song. Agreed. And Benjamin Davis just saying awesome. Yeah, I agree. A lot of love around this one. Very happy.
I mean, I'm just glad for her that she's not leaving WWE, because I suspect that she probably was completely caught off guard, just like Peyton and Billy were by being released as she was. And I'm just glad that she's not completely stripped of all of the identity that she was able to develop there and all of the sort of elements of the character that she worked hard to develop. So it's great for her to be able to come off with a name that she still likes, and sort of tailor it to something that's even more her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talking about new gimmicks here, this WWE NXT battery charger tease has continued on, obviously, on this past week's NXT. We don't really know where it's going. The charger has gone from 1 to 10 to 11, 20 to 21, all the way up to 51%. I'm not going to recap all the percentages they've done. It's been a slow build, glacier-esque build. Maybe not that bad. Believe the battery is going to reach 100% with the Great American Bash on Tuesday, July 16th. And a lot of fans are speculating it could be a returning superstar like Tegan Nox or Ridge Holland. Like this is they're recharging their batteries after an injury or something. Right. Okay. Thoughts?
I mean, I would think that would be more the case, like indicating that somebody who needed to leave and recharge their battery is going to be returning. It seems more intuitive than the thought that somebody new would debut with this sort of like shtick, wherein they're not even pushing the person's name.
I hadn't really thought about it until you phrased it like it's somebody who had to leave and go and recharge the battery and come back. When you say that, I mean, the first name that comes to my mind is Keith Lee.
That would be fantastic,
right?
Like, because of the fact that he is somebody who's disappeared, and he keeps saying, he's been teasing on social media, like, I can't wait to tell you everything. And meanwhile, like, he and Mia Yim are planning a wedding. That's obvious, right? And like, she's talking about that incessantly. So, the fact of the matter is that this would be a great way to bring somebody back that, it reminds me of like when we were doing the countdown to like Y2J.
Oh,
back in the day. But this is a situation where I think if they were planning on bringing somebody new in, we would potentially be getting some kind of a tease of what that person's name would be or who that identity would be, versus this is just making people curious and starting the conversation. And then once the person returns, there will be no need for a reintroduction.
Yeah, for sure. Man, Keith Lee would be great. I just would love to see him back. I'm glad that came into my head. I
mean, everybody would like to see Keith Lee back, especially in NXT, where he would presumably get to return as Keith Lee. Right. And also, P.S., if they are in conversations or thought process of moving Karrion Kross out of NXT, who better than to come back and reclaim his own title from him than Keith Lee?
Well, and there's the other dynamic here with Kross, right? That's the Scarlett thing, because it sounds like she's going to get some kind of tryout match on her own this Friday night, if the rumors are true, right?
That is the rumor.
Yeah, okay. So, it looks like they're interested in seeing what Scarlett can do inside of a ring. If you're going to bring Keith Lee back after recharge the batteries, why not bring him and Mia back together as a unit? I mean, you have their Garganos down there. You'd have, Kross and Scarlett up top. I mean, I would be very intrigued by a return of Keith Lee and Mia Yim to the NXT universe.
it's just tragic what happened to both of them. Both of them were so wildly over, so beloved by the fans. They put on great, terrific, outings in the rings at all the NXT takeovers of which they participated, as well as the weekly television show. And then both of them, excuse my French, got shit on entirely when they went to the roster. They just got shit on.
Well, not necessarily. Like when Keith Lee first came in, he had like a 6-week run there. Remember, he beat Randy Orton on pay-per-view in like 7 minutes or something like that. There was I mean, it's not like bringing somebody in hot and then letting them just completely flounder. Your introduction only can go so far. He came in with all the momentum in the world, and they actively seemed to kill every chance that they had to make that something. He was coming in and immediately talking, if you recall, about his extensive history all around the world with Drew McIntyre and others, and that would have been the perfect opportunity for them to really push that as a story for the World Heavyweight title and push him into that mix, which seemed only appropriate because he legitimately came in seconds after dropping the NXT title, right? Yeah.
And then they just sort of were like, oh, we teased you, but not happening.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. But that's kind of the story for a lot of almost everyone that goes from NXT to the main roster, right? You get a short, kind of quick series of vignettes, a push, and then it's fight or flight, man. And
most of them come in. They are like, what in the actual hell is happening here? Most of them pop up and go into the U.S. title picture or something like that, and then and it's a quick thing, and then it fizzles, because I think that what we see is that everything that works about them in NXT frequently does get discarded. And of course, Mia Yim and Keith Lee were the two most obvious examples, besides Dominik Dijakovic, of course, of people who everything that they worked hard to establish in NXT about them is just forgotten.
Yeah. Neftali here before we move along, saying, I hope they don't ruin Cross and Scarlett. She can wrestle, but please don't split them.
I would, that is exactly correct. That was the first thought that I had when, one of the reasons that that gimmick works so well is because they play off of each other beautifully. And they also create a dynamic that is unusual and something that we do not see repeatedly in WWE right now. She is his mouthpiece, even though she doesn't need to be. She adds that spooky, witch-like element to his character. I'm so hesitant. I love Karrion Kross. I've loved Karrion Kross throughout his evolution on televised wrestling. So watching him from Lucha Underground into Impact Wrestling into NXT, and watching how he's evolved and seeing what a skilled competitor he is and how captivating, they have a gimmick that works for him really, really well. And I have zero trust that the main roster would be able to maintain that or even be curious to.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I heard about the Cross is doing 205 or main event, and maybe Scarlett's going to try out, I just see Triple H just in his office, just all right, well, just start shredding the creative plans, I guess, for the next 6 months, because Vince woke up and decided, why did we fire Braun Strowman? I needed a big dude to go fill out my SmackDown roster. I mean, when these stories over time, we hear more about what happened behind the scenes, I have a feeling it's going to be so much of the left and the right hand having no idea what the other is doing. It's such a disconnect, Yeah,
and I also look at the fact that in NXT, Karrion and Scarlett have this pseudo supernatural type of element to their character. And very reminiscent. They moved Aleister Black onto the main roster, which left a void for Karrion and Scarlett to fill in that capacity. And then we saw what happened to him on the main roster. I think that I just do not think that they would know what to do with him or how to present him. I think he would do extremely well if they gave him a commitment to push him in whatever capacity, because he's got the look, he's got the skills, he's got the ability to cut a promo. He could be a challenger for any world heavyweight championship in the world, anywhere in any company. But we've also seen, just 2 seconds ago, we're talking about how they ruined Keith Lee.
Yeah. Well, I brought up Braun there real quick. I'm going to flip the run sheet here for just a second, just since his name was invoked. The former star took to Instagram to show off his new physique in tiny little shorts, with the former strongman looking jacked as ever, trying to gain 20 more pounds of muscle. Braun Strowman letting it be known he is still a big, strong man. Polio.
Yes, there was no doubt about that. I wish he would gain 20 more pounds of charisma. That, like, the fact that he's at 340 pounds of muscle and minus 20 pounds of charisma is the problem. That's the problem. If only, I don't think, and the unfortunate thing is I don't even think he's an unskilled wrestler. I think that WWE probably was super limiting with what they would allow him to do. They, do this, conduct your run around be the conductor of destruction or whatever you are, and then be done with it. But the fact was that they did give him numerous opportunities to try to develop some kind of a personality, and he failed horrendously in every situation. There was very, very limited situations where I wanted to hear him say a single word.
Well, it looks like Young Drizzy agreeing with you. OMG, if that ain't the truth, is what you're saying right now. And yeah, I think there's a case to be made that, like, he does
not need any more muscle. The physicality is already there.
I feel so. And by the way, Kristen Jones also saying so true, also complimented just the fact that we're talking together and having you on the show. Thank
you, Kristen.
Yes, Kristen, wonderful. As is young Drizzy here.
Yes, thank you, Young Drizzy.
I feel like it is. I would have liked to have seen Braun's attempt at a title run in front of fans, right? Because he didn't have the belt until coming out of Mania right after the pandemic, and it was just such a crazy time. And I don't know, like I'm not huge on Braun at the moment because of all the Tiger King photos that he's putting out there, but I do feel like the guy didn't really get a chance. If he really could have connected on top, we really don't know. We didn't get to see what he looked like in that capacity.
The unfortunate reality for Braun, I think, was that Braun peaked in popularity about 2.5 years before they put that belt on him. He got to this capacity of being red hot, completely. He was very much over with the audiences. I'm not sure exactly how or why, but he was. And WWE would not pull the trigger on him. And then I think that they realized, as they were circling back into this negotiation phase of his contract, that either they kind of shit or get off the pot. Like, if you're going to be investing this much money in the guy, at least try to earn back some of that with him in a title capacity. And it just was too late, because I think the fans had moved on, that ship had sailed, and B, what they were able to do in limited audience type of situations like this just wasn't hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll see what's next for Braun. I do agree with you, though. The personality, a little bland. Maybe didn't do himself any favors. Well,
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, well, speaking of personality, Alexa Bliss, a lot of people have mixed opinions on the work that she's doing right now in WWE.
How could you possibly have mixed opinions on it? I mean, perhaps it doesn't hit home for you, but her level of commitment and her level of carrying that kind of character and the acting relating to that and all of it is stellar. You may not like it, just like I don't like a Darby Allin, right? You may not like it. It may not be for you, but her commitment to the character would be relatable to what we see from Darby or Orange Cassidy.
Fair enough. And she says they can say what they want, but I'm actually having fun. So basically saying this isn't something that she's being forced to do that she finds to be dumb. She's doing her best to commit and try to make this work. And I'll agree with you on that. The commitment is there. And I'll also agree with you. It's just maybe not for some people. And for me,
maybe it's not.
For me, as much as I think there's something there, she hasn't found the right dancing partner, maybe is what it is. Shayna hasn't fully kind of clicked as the foil to her. The whole breakaway from the Fiend stuff after WrestleMania was never fully kind of explained. It's a commitment to a character without a plot is my problem. So that's my issue.
I would say that I find it actually fairly entertaining.
Okay.
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for this. I don't think that the writing for this is up to par with what they did for the Fiend himself. But and definitely the disappearing act that the Fiend pulled, like, I think that they sort of touched on it and then just ran away from it. The, like, you know, you created me and I don't need you anymore type of scenario. But what I would say about this that I actually really enjoy and appreciate is that for any character in professional wrestling to have longevity of career, there has to be evolution in storytelling. There has to be evolution in who they are to keep them fresh, to keep them something unique and new and different. If you keep repetitiously playing the same character over and over, it's the equivalent. We were just talking about music. It's the equivalent of a band going on tour to play their one hit. Like, remember our song? And people are like, yeah, that's great. Play it again.
Yeah.
You know, and we unfortunately see that situation happen with too many characters in WWE. You know, too many people play that same character for a really long time. I mean, how many times do we see Dolph Ziggler play the "What about me? What about me"?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just like The Undertaker is a supernatural being that was always able to make whatever kind of, not all the time, right? Like, there's Giant Gonzalez. What are you going to do with the 7-foot, you know, massive man that can't move? But like, Undertaker was usually very creative with the way he would pair himself with like each opponent. Shawn Michaels kind of the same way. I mean, you're able to take different opponents and make something out of it. Again, like the commitment to the characters there, I just don't see the plot. I've lost the plot, you know.
At the same time, one of the things that I would point out to you, you know, it's no fault of Alexa Bliss's that she is not a Shawn Michaels or an Undertaker who presumably got to hand pick, because of their status with the company, hand pick who they want to work with. Who do you want to work with? I want to work with AJ Styles. You figure out how to make it happen. I want that payoff. Like, you know.
But they earned that over time, right? Like, it's not like
right.
they and Sean and these guys walked in and were calling their shots. And I think it would be a little broad brush to say that they were always getting to pick who they worked with. A lot of the times it seems like, you know, Vince would make people kind of work with who wanted them to be paired up with at the time. So but at
some point they got over that hump, right? Well, I don't think Alexa's gotten there.
No. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm just looking for the right dance partner, the right hook, whatever it may be. And I'm hoping when the fans come back, a lot of the stuff that seems to be a little toothless right now for me finds a bite, you know. And I'll say that about Drew McIntyre too, who needs something right now, just a little adrift. There's a lot of people that are just a little adrift right now, you know. So I put her in that camp. All right, lastly here. Oh, wait, you know what? I'll read some stuff here. We did get a lot of comments here during this. Young Drizzy, I love the Alexa stuff. She's doing great, so agrees with you.
Young Drizzy, you and I are on the same wave here.
Kristen saying, how does anybody not like Darby Allin? Daniel Price saying, easy, Kristen, because Darby's a glorified bump monkey with a death wish. Little harsh, Daniel. Little harsh.
But where's the lie?
Yeah, well, hey, look, Darby's... Again, he's a demo that's a little younger than me, you know.
And you know, Kristen, in my self-defense, right? In self-defense, I have never on this show or anywhere else would you ever find me discount what Darby brings to the table, because I think in the world of professional wrestling, the whole purpose is to tell different stories and connect with different types of audiences. Darby decidedly does not speak to me. If Darby speaks to you, then he's doing his job. Like the point of any of these characters is that we can't have the same character over and over, targeting the same audiences. So different characters have to be developed for different audiences. I'm clearly not the audience that's intended for Darby.
All right, last news item here, because I want to get it in while we have time here on the show. This is a bit of like a crime drama that we get to. Oh
my God, I was reading this. I was like, oh dear.
I know. I was like, well, what parts you include? I was like, I think you have to include all of it to kind of tell the story. So I didn't know any of this, but former WWE star Emmett Brian Clark, aka Adam Bomb. Remember Adam Bomb with the footballs?
Of course, I remember Adam Bomb.
Dude, I loved Adam Bomb. Brian Clark.
Adam Clark and Brian Adams teamed up together for a while.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Brian Clark fan, and I'm glad to hear that he has been cleared of all charges He has been cleared of all charges stemming from a February 2020 arrest. It was reported in early February 2020 that Clark had been arrested by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in Arizona, along with Dennis Mickles of the 1960s pop band The Buckinghams. Do you know much about the Buckinghams? You familiar?
I'm Henry VIII. I am. Is that them?
Maybe you're probably closer to guess. I have no idea. I've heard of them. Play me the song. I'd probably know it. But anyway, he's tied up with this guy from the Buckinghams on charges of conspiracy, illegal control of enterprise, transporting or selling narcotics, drug possession, and possessing a weapon during a drug offense. These crimes allegedly occurred in January and April 2019. And why Michaelis was facing charges of conspiracy, illegal control of enterprise, and transporting or selling narcotics from incidents in January 2019. At the time, Clark's attorney stated that the ludicrous weapons charge was based on a family heirloom, a Korean War pistol that was unused and stored at Clark's home, as you do. His attorney also said at the time that Clark, who is a U.S. Air Force veteran and does philanthropic work, hoped to resolve the issue and return to private life. In an update, his attorney Robert Jarvis of Mesa, Arizona, issued a press release this week announcing all the charges against Clark had been dismissed. And Jarvis noted that the charges against Clark were, quote, based on police reports containing speculation, grossly misconstructed facts, and false information. I cannot imagine the 2 years of like anxiety and legal bills and accusations, and then ultimately you're cleared. I can't even. That's got to be a nightmare.
Oh. Well, I mean, yes, and it's also part of our legal system, right? Like, you know, but I did want to point out to Brian that like giving out free meth to people is not really a philanthropic endeavor. You know, like that giving out meth and the people in Arizona is not considered a philanthropic endeavor. But I do think it's very kind of you.
Giving meth out? What is happening here? What are you accusing him?
No, well, it's like I'm just assuming like it's the middle of the fucking desert in Arizona. Like I'm guessing like that was probably the narcotics that they were talking about. You know, like that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, sir, please put away your Korean War pistol and don't blow up the trailer by cooking some meth.
That's a wild accusation and speculation.
It is. It's not based in any truth at all. That's my fan fiction. But like, I am glad that he was cleared of all this. By the way, I should know the group, the Buckinghams, because they literally have an album called Kind of a Drag.
Really?
Yes.
I'm gonna.
No, like I mean, you know, this is horrifying. You know, if in fact that this was all a scenario where everything was dropped and it was sort of trumped up charges based on speculation, I'm kind of curious. Like, I don't always think that those things happen. Like, there's a reason they're speculating. They may not have wanted to go forth with this or whatever. But if it was trumped up charges, like potentially he could have a lawsuit and for defamation on his hands. So, I mean,
yeah.
But
yeah. And Daniel Price here saying, well, Houseman, imagine all the people who are stuck in jail and put there for crimes they didn't do. Imagine that anxiety. Yes, I
happens all the time.
I agree.
It happens all the time. You know, I'm in Vegas right now, and I was like driving down here from San Francisco and listening to these like true crime things on television. And one of the ways that they solved this particular crime was one of the police forces somewhere put out this press release naming two people who they had zero evidence against as people of interest. They put out a press release, and all of a sudden their idea was like to flush out like tips or whatever in the news. But can you imagine if there was no tips to flush out? Those people are like literally they'd been part of a press release. Mm-hmm. And it was just so crazy. I'm like, that's the way you destroy people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to come to the mailbag portion of the show. We're going to wrap it up here and have the in portion. Before we get to, well, first of all, thank you very much to Weston Blake now for taking the time to chat with me. Great interview. If you're watching us live, 15 minutes, we'll debut that live over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel or premiere it. You could jump in the conversation. And of course, Pollo Del Mar, thank you for coming back and making the show much more interesting and fun. That's for sure. So
today was extra sassy. Sorry, Adam Bomb. Sorry, honey. I don't know anything about you. I'd forgotten about you, to be honest.
I was like, what are we?
I didn't forget about him, but
What are we talking about here?
But when I was reading that, I'm like, we're talking about in the middle of a desert in Arizona. We know what that means, honey.
Before we get to the mailbag thing, Dino put up a comment that got a lot of people talking, saying, could the battery promo for a returning Kevin Owens, could it be for a returning Kevin Owens to NXT since he's taking a break from the main roster? He did do the honors there for Sami Zayn at Hell in a Cell. I would not be upset if Kevin Owens, but I feel like they had.
I mean, it could be for Shawn Michaels. He could have left all this time and finally found his smile and is coming back. He's only at 51%.
Maybe. I just don't see it being Kevin Owens because I feel like they see value in Kevin Owens. Like, I think they're going to keep him on SmackDown and they're not going to move him back down.
He's a workhorse. They can put him in a match against anyone and it's going to be good.
God, him and Zayn was like, it's just because we've seen it so much, but that was a banger at Hell in a Cell. They had
It always is. Yeah. They have the ultimate chemistry.
It was an absolute banger. All right. So anyway, poll question today comes from @WInc That's the Twitter account to follow. If you want to find us, vote in the daily poll, let us know what you think of things or find out about other things. That is what we do at Week Daily. So today's poll question, who would you like to see win the 2021 WWE Women's Money in the Bank match? The choices I gave were Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, or somebody else. With over 300 votes, we have, I could do a screen share here. Let's share the votes. With over 300 votes here, 44.8% Becky Lynch, 23.5% Nikki Cross, 19% Alexa Bliss, and then 12.7% go to something else as a write-in. Polio, who do you want to see hold the Money in the Bank?
I'm not even certain about that. I don't really have an answer for this because a lot of the people that I think are the most obvious don't appeal to me at all. Like, I'm not certain what I would want Alexa Bliss to have a money. I mean, I don't think it fits with the character, the Money in the Bank thing. Nikki Cross debuting her new gimmick and her whole new look, her whole superhero thing, I think would be really cute to have in that environment, but I don't think that it kind of fits with her. And Becky Lynch, to be frank, does not need a Money in the Bank to come back and walk right in and demand a title. Okay. So I think that, somebody who they need to put it on somebody who would benefit from having that sort of like their name for potentially a year's time in the world title conversation, like in the women's championship conversation, by moving somebody into that place. But I don't specifically know who it is because I don't see them, they just have such even though the roster is really deep, they just have such a limited breadth of people that they decide to use at any given time.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of write-ins here for one person, and that is, I'll start with Jeremy W228, who echoes a lot of fans. He says, it's time to push Liv Morgan. If not Liv, give it to Bayley, have her cash in on a Raw champion. She could use a change of scenery. Plus, obnoxious Bayley with the briefcase would be great. I agree. Bayley's a fantastic heel right now. Briefcase usually works on it. But Liv Morgan, I see the upside for that too. Everybody loves Liv. They want to see her get that shot,
Yeah, I mean, I think that Liv is hopefully is going to be seeing an upside soon. I would not put this on her at all. I think that, when it came to the Riott Squad, she was like the pretty one, but she was the Karen of the Mean Girls group, I'm a mouse, duh. But she never really, I don't think she showed the kind of in-ring skills that I would have wanted. I think she has the opportunity to improve that over the next several months, but I don't foresee putting a Money on the Bank. What I would hate to have happen is for them to put Money on the Bank on somebody that they later on turn around and change their mind about, a la Otis. Because Otis, what happened to Otis did far more harm to his career in the long run than it did benefit.
We have 6 Rings 9880. Reckoning going to wreck everyone and leave. I don't find that's a Mia Yim reference. But there are a lot of people that did want to see Mia Yim get it. We also have the Buzzcat here. I want Becky, but it's going to be Dewdrop. And I did see a write-in here from our comment section for it was one for Eva Marie. And then we had another person write in here. Where's my – I have a hunch here for this from Daniel Price. I have a hunch Niven's going to win it and give it to Eva Marie. Real quickly on Eva Marie, did it feel like they got to the lackey outsmarts the boss thing a little quicker than maybe that you would anticipate?
Literally, it took one episode, Like they were like, maybe this isn't going to work out. Pull the trigger on the finish. Boom.
Dude, it is for real. Is like they saw the backlash to the way she was presented from that Monday, and I predicted that they were going to do something different, and they just put the brakes on that thing on Monday night, didn't they?
It really did. It felt like the end of, you know what I mean? Unless like it did not feel like the continuation of the first act.
No,
like, you know, Piper. If like I would have expected Piper or Dewdrop or whatever to continue being enamored by Eva Marie, despite the fact that all of the above were happening to her. And then it, you know, like, I don't know. It was like one and done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. All the other write-ins here were some variation of Mia Yim or Liv Morgan, it looks like. And I'm trying to say we had a write-in over here for from Samantha QT. Naomi deserves it. Kristen agreed. Naomi is a good suggestion. You know, but she's been a SmackDown Women's Champion twice. Like, if you're going to use this briefcase to get somebody to that next level or whatever, like, I'm more in the camp of a Liv. If you're going to do a babyface, I'm more in the camp of a Liv Morgan than Naomi, because I think Naomi, you could just have her in the main event picture, no briefcase needed. I think she would be a wonderful addition to the Charlotte Rhea Ripley main event picture at Raw right now.
I just as much as I love like the women of the main roster, if I want to watch women's wrestling in WWE, there's only one option, and it's NXT.
Okay. Yes. Fair enough. And lastly here from Kristen, maybe Eva Marie has a new protege next week. Maybe
recycle like a revolving door of proteges.
Sure. Yeah. Piper tries to get one over on Eva, and Eva has the new protege lay out Piper, and then or Dewdrop or whatever.
Like, the next one will be Don't Drop. She's gonna have Dewdrop versus Don't Drop. It's like terrible.
And then Death Drop. And then Death Drop.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. Well, that is the end of the news, the mailbag for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I always have a blast talking with you, Polio.
Thanks.
This was a lot of fun. You'll be back next Thursday, right?
Yes, and it hopefully I'll be like Nikki Cross before the superhero costume. I'll just be normal Nikki Cross. Okay. I'll be Clark Kent, this current Wonder Woman.
I was going to tell you, you're like the Mick Foley of the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Exactly. Yeah, you never know which character is going to pop up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what keeps things fun and fresh here. And tomorrow we're going to wrap the week up. It'll be me and Christy Olsen, and we are also going to have part 1 of Drew Rice's interview with Lodi from Raven's Flock. You're going to find out what's going on with Lodi here tomorrow on the show, Polio. Big fan.
You know, interestingly enough, I was just Googling him a couple, like Lodi and Lenny, you know, like that gimmick, obviously for obvious reasons, like was always intriguing to me. And then I was actually mad at Glad for ruining that. Like they were like, this is not effective. And I was like, I liked them. But I mean, I did understand the concern that was expressed in the way that, you know, it was just not being presented very well. But yeah, I just was reading his wiki not that long ago.
Well, hot out the wiki, fresh onto the WInc Daily Fryer. Lodi will be here tomorrow. And if you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, go support us on WrestlingInc.com. We're on all your favorite social media channels. And the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays, weekends after pay-per-views. We put that audio on the RSS feed for the Wrestling Inc. podcast. You can find it on your favorite podcast platforms as well. Polio, what do you want to plug, promote, put over here to wrap up the show today?
Absolutely. I am here in Las Vegas for Fearless, which is going to be happening. The Dark Sheik cordially invites you to Fearless. It is going to be happening tomorrow night, 8 p.m. in Las Vegas. It's going to be an incredible show. You can find out more about that on birdswillfall.com. That's the Hood Slam, the iconic Hood Slam's website. And if you're in Vegas, just look it up, Fearless. It's going to have an incredible lineup of the top names in the LGBTQ wrestling community and beyond, actually. So a lot of Hood Slam favorites.
Wonderful. Yes. All right, cool. Well, I am at Nick_Houseman over on Twitter. A brand new episode of Pro Wrestling for Life is available now on all major podcast platforms. It's me and Sean Waltman. We get Jerry Lynn on. Him and Sean talk about their 30-plus year career and how, you know, like 19-year-old Jerry got 17-year-old Sean a job at a strip club, you know, as you do growing up. whatever. It's all on the table here. And then we have Josiah Williams, Wrestling Flow NXT fame on the show as well. So Pro Wrestling for Life, check it out. I will talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked,